This is Rain Hamcast number 55, posted November 27th, 2021 on the rainreport.com and on the YouTube Rain Report channel. See the link on the rainreport.com's main menu. I'm Will Rogers, K5WLR. By now, you may have checked out and maybe even spent time answering the 250 questions that comprise the Ham Census, waiting for you at hamcensus.com. The Maryland ham behind this ambitious project is Jim Alyanak, K3MRI. Borrowing from his brief QRZ bio, Jim was, among other things, the founding president of the Forum for the Analysis of Communications and Trends, the strategist behind the World Urban Campaign, an advisor to the World AIDS Campaign, and a founding board member of the World Prevention Alliance. Here's our second of two excerpts from his virtual talk, Shaping the Future of Ham Radio, prepared for and delivered to the August 2021 QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo.
I believe that there is a tug of war going on between various groups. First, there are those who consider ham radio a hobby. These operators are looking for a chance to communicate with kindred hams, both down the street and around the globe. They care about their installation, value the knowledge they've acquired, and appreciate the quality of the QSO above all else. This is the group that tends to be attracted to public service, including MCOM. These same individuals tend to be club-oriented. These are the rag chewers also. Secondly, you have those who are focused on performance above all. They're contesting every chance they get and don't really appreciate those who would dare rag chew during the contest period. Their stations are pumped up and their antenna farms are impressive. Then, third, you have those who are desperately trying to push amateur radio into new ground. These include the satellite and digital operators and all other experimenters. Of course, there are many subgroups and people belong to various groups, but they mostly identify with one over the other. And the problem is that these groups don't coexist as well as they should. Each seems to think that they own the spectrum and the wisdom to grow the hobby. These groups have to stop bickering and accept that the practice of amateur radio is big enough for all of us, and that in fact we will only grow if we feed each other's ambition. Let rag chewers yap, let contesters contest, and let experimenters experiment. In other words, let each group feel that they have a purpose and encourage them to attain their own goals. Let me conclude with a way forward. The reason our military is so strong is because every trade works for the better performance of the other. A pilot is worthless without his or her mechanic, and the mechanic has no purpose other than to keep his or her pilot safe and effective. There is not one way to grow amateur radio, there are many, and all, not just one, should be pursued as a team effort. This is K3MRI QRT.
Great presentation, Jim. Thank you. As people are entering the Q&A section, welcome. I'm Wayne Cage, 6WZ, the moderator for this, for Jim's presentation. Great session, Jim. I learned a lot. Thank you. I was not aware of the census. What an amazing gold mine of information, huh?
Thank you, thank you.
So as people are joining, you can enter your questions in the chat room. I'll be moderating the chat. Also, feel free to raise your hand visually or via the chat, and I will be able to see that, and I'll hopefully be able to relay that over to Jim. Since we have limited time and I'm a contester, I am capable of copying and reacting quickly to cues. Bob Grubik, stand by a second as people are coming in here. Actually, you know what? Since time is precious, Bob, why don't you go ahead and unmute and, well, you are unmuted, and blast out your question to Jim here.
Thank you, Wayne. I do have more than more than there is to type. Very good presentation, Jim. I stumbled across it by accident and was pleasantly surprised. I heard it from the beginning, but I would like to know what's your background? Do you work in statistics? Are you just motivated by this type of data that you're seeking? I'm really happy to hear that this thing is around that you produced. Go ahead.
Thank you
Over.
very much, Bob. Thank you, Bob. So my background is military career. And then when I retired, I was hired by a company called Risk Sciences International, which specializes actually in data analysis. And so I was fortunate enough to have the true experts from the company, from RSI, to give me guidance and to help me shape something useful. And so that's my background, military and now risk science.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne.
Oh, you bet. That's a great question. Thank you for sharing that, your background, Jim. Any other questions out there? There have to be some. Go ahead. Do I need to ask QRZ? Bob again.
Yes,
In
I'm sorry.
6CQ, go ahead.
Jim, other than putting your presentation here in this virtual Ham Expo, where have you advertised? How are you getting the word out, or have you just begun?
Well, we've just begun. It's not been easy. So I've been trying to get word of mouth out. A few forums have picked it up. I advertised a little bit out of my pocket, hence my wife going, "What the heck are you doing?" On the ARRL newsletter. And I am really hoping that I'll be able to get some traction and get some people to chip in by at least just getting the word out. This is a 100% nonprofit exercise. Not a bit of advertising, not a bit of revenue. It's just there. All the data is for everyone who fills it out. So anyone who can spread the word, thank you.
Okay, I'll be sure and spread the word. Thank you.
I just entered the Ham Census website URL in chat. So for anybody here visiting or in the Q&A session, there's the website. You can click there and save it on your browser. Great question, Bob. Sterling, hey, welcome. How you doing in 0SSC? Go ahead.
Hi there. Sorry for the noise. I'm walking the dog.
I thought you were cutting your lawn, but never mind.
No, I got the pooch in front of me there. I tuned in and it was interesting. There was the youth. So if you know me, you know I'm a youth on the air person. I'm literally wearing the shirt from my earlier presentation. And one of the things that is super critical to our kind of mission is understanding the demographic of ham radio and the like age spread. And one of the things I noticed with Ham Census, I was just looking through it cursory because I haven't completed the entire census. Was that there wasn't like, how old are you? And I assume that's because of privacy. But I was wondering if you had any insight, or if you had an objection to that.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I thought I had put a question about age. If I haven't, then that's one hell of a miss. But I think there is a question about age.
Okay.
And if I didn't, that might have been because of privacy concerns. Having said this, there are questions in there about youth, and I'd love to put more. The census is a living thing. I'm not intent on keeping it stagnant. So I'm hoping that people will contribute questions. Now, again, the logic is, well, reduce your questions. And my logic is no. I would rather get committed people who fill it out. And by the way, I'm up to about 72% of people who register actually complete it. So despite all the grumbling, there does seem to be a very high completion rate. So if there are any questions that I have missed, whether it be specific questions or broadly, then please bring it on.
Okay. Well, to be fair, I was on my phone just kind of glancing through really quick while on the walk. And I couldn't see that one part where you're just scrolling through the whole page every answer to every question. Obviously couldn't see that. And I did see like you did have questions for when did you first get your license and how long have you had it, which is good to have. But on that thread, I wanted to just pull like there has always been a huge difficulty in getting that information from like a non-survey source, because surveys like this and others like innate RMAs and other ad hoc like surveys always have some sort of bias, self-selection and that sort of thing. But actually getting real data of like this license is this, you know, is from a person that's this years old, many years old, and here's the graph. And on the other hand, other countries, like I know Canada actually has like real license data attached to age, and we can see and probably extrapolate to some degree. And it's obvious, you know, when, excuse me, my dog's wrapping me around. It's obvious when we go to a ham fest or whatever, we see, you know, the graying hairs and this and that. So, but the real question I want to ask is, somebody talked to me in my early presentation, is we've heard this for years. Like before I was a ham, this has been a thing when Wayne Green was writing in 73 magazine. This has been a thing in the 50s when single sideband was going to ruin ham radio, you know, and all that. So I was always wondering if this like lump of, you know, the older hams age like 40 to 50 to 60 to 70, where it like kind of dies is the wrong term. It lowers off at like the lower range of like, you know, the teens, 20s and 30s. If that's always been stable, like is ham radio really got a problem? Is just an older person's hobby, or is this like kind of moved over to the right over the years? And so us youngsters really need to, you know, what am I trying to say? You know, pull up our bootstraps and really get ham radio gear, or else, you know, when I retire, I won't have a hobby to return to. So these surveys, long story short, these surveys are really helping to answer that question. So appreciate it.
Yeah, that's this work is important, Jim, and I agree. I was a little bit surprised that we haven't heard about this thing before. Hey, there's another question from Vince VE6LK. Go ahead.
Afternoon, all. Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, all. Jim, thanks very much for your presentation. It provided interesting context to the census that I filled in, I guess, since it first came out. I spotted you on Reddit. Fascinating questions and a worthwhile endeavor for certain. The question I wanted to ask you today is, you're starting up a ham community forum, and I don't understand what void you're looking to fill by doing this, please. I guess or to rephrase that question, what is the overall purpose of the forum, please?
Yeah, Ham Community is a different project and is actually the mother project of 3 or 4 different projects that are underneath, including Ham Census. So we've got 2 other projects, again, public service projects in the works with my little group. And you'll be hearing about those hopefully in the next about 6 to 12 months. And Ham Community is the umbrella. I needed a place where all these projects could feed into for discussion. You'll notice that there's no advertising on Ham Community either. It's just an open space for very polite discussion. I am very intolerant of, I'm a one-strike guy, you're done. So we needed a place where we could just have a good discussion about these various projects. It's still in its infancy. Again, no traction yet, and no pretense that there is traction. But hopefully, not just this project, Ham Census, but the next project that we're working on very aggressively, and which is a very useful project. I would say much more so than Ham Census. It is an operational level project. If that one gets off the ground the way we hope, then that again will feed into Ham Community, and Ham Community will just become the tool that we discuss. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Jim.
Follow-up question from Vince. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Jim, is there any way to slice and dice the data to get to a subset of people who selected a particular interest, to understand their demographics or the ways they answered other questions? My particular interest is in disaster communications. I'd love to know, for example, what the cross-section of people give as answers within that group of people. Is there a way for me to do that? You've given us access to that data.
Okay, two things. First of all, after this, email me because we have a project in disaster comms that may interest you. And being
Perfect.
a fellow Canadian, by the way,
Yep.
I would love to have you on board, at least to discuss with you what we're working on. As far as slice and dice, we could. We haven't yet. I've tried to be very careful not to seem like somebody who wanted to take this data and use it because I didn't. I wanted it just to be raw data that was usable. I think I could probably do some segmenting that would be reasonable, like to say, all right, of all the people who have power over 100 watts, who has this? I mean, I could do some comparative analysis. I haven't done so yet. I don't think we have enough numbers yet within Ham Census. I think that if I could get it up to 10,000, right now we're just under 1,000. So it's a very, very new thing. If I can get it to really bump, if suddenly I can get one country to go, oh, I like this, boom. I tried to reach out to the IARU and I kind of got a bit of a cold reception. We wanted to go international. I tried to reach out to the ARRL. I don't know if any of you here are officials within the ARRL. If you are, well, here I am. And I haven't had any traction with people to get me over the hill where I had enough numbers and enough of a cross section of data that it would be logical to start segmenting. But yes, absolutely feasible.
Okay, very good. Well, Jim, again, thank you for your presentation, and Wayne, thank you for your moderation services.
Absolutely.
One
Glad to
thing,
do
by
it.
the way, and I wrote to RAC and I wrote to Greg directly. I wrote to the whole RAC team, and I haven't had a response. They didn't even reply to me. So I
As a
guess
Canadian,
it's
I'll
something in my
apologize for that.
beard.
Another question here from Rich, K0 Echo Bravo. Will the data be downloadable, Jim?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I should make it downloadable. I don't think I should give people the opportunity. Maybe. I don't know. There's my answer. I haven't thought that to that. I never actually even thought of that. For now, the answer is no. If there was a scenario where it would be truly beneficial, then yes. But no, for now, no.
Good question, good answer. Anyone else? Feel free to ask your question. QRZ. Yeah, Bob again, NC6Q. Go ahead.
I just typed the question, but I made a mistake in it. Jim, you mentioned your website is available. The questionnaire is available in 26 countries. I suppose it's in various languages also. Do you have them No? Do you have them translated? Do you rely on people to use Google Translate, or how do you deal with other languages?
So two things. First of all, so far everybody has answered in English only. One of the reasons I was reaching out to the national organizations was to give them the opportunity. I would install the translation software and have them translate it with more sensitivity to their local markets. So that's in the works. That's a project. If Portugal came up to me tomorrow and said, look, we'd like to do this on a grander scale, the ones that come to mind are the languages that come to mind definitely are the UN languages, definitely Japan and Thailand, because they're the two biggest amateur radio markets after our own, after the US. So absolutely possible to do, absolutely not done so far. So the only people who have answered in English.
Thank
Very
you.
good, Jim. Thank you. Question from Steve, AF7YD. Would you be available to make live Zoom overview for club meetings? Jim, this could be a great opportunity for publicizing.
Absolutely.
Steve, can you enter in, Steve, AF7YD, I believe you can enter chat directly to Jim. Give that a try. If you're not able to do that, type
Or
it in
just
chat
send
and
me
I'll
an
pass it
email.
over. There you go.
Send me an email at k3mri@hamcommunity.com. k3mri there it is, hamcommunity.com.
I just entered that in chat for the folks. Anybody else with a question?
Thank you.
.com with an M at the end, by the way, Wayne.
Sorry about that, not CO.
.co. Not a problem.
Great. Thanks for the catch.
Wayne?
Yes.
Sorry, this is a question for you. Are the chats available to be downloaded or viewed or copied once this room closes?
It depends. It depends. I've noticed in this one, I am able to save chat. However, in my own presentation, I was not able to save chat. So it depends on whatever setting the super admin had. I suggest that if you want to download and save chat, try it. What you do is open up chat and then look for the 3 dots for more. And then there's a pull down menu for save chat if it's available to you.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is.
It is available.
Okay.
Very awesome.
Thanks.
All right, anybody?
I'd like,
Any other questions? QRZ.
Yeah, me.
Jim,
K3
go ahead.
MRI. I'd like to add something based on my closing comment on the video. I've evolved since in the past few days since I made that video. I was trying to think if I was spot on with my own vision, and I think I was off. That idea of the 3 different groups and getting along, yeah, that's kind of important. But I think I have a different vision now. I think that my vision is between those who want a directed hobby and those who want a free-for-all hobby. I think that some people want us to have a direction. We say, for example, why don't we make an effort to have more youth? As opposed to, well, if youth want to come, they'll come. So which is it? Do we actually get together and do something together, as my slogan says, shaping the future of ham radio, or not? Now, if we do, then I have a second question, is who are the real influencers? And are the real influencers truly doing all that is necessary to take us in a given direction? Now, by a given direction, I don't mean just one. It can be parallel directions, as I mentioned in my comment in the video, that we can coexist. But are we doing enough well, not me, I'm not, but are the leaders, the thought leaders and the association leaders and the manufacturers really coming together? And I don't feel they are. There seems to be a lot of disparate effort being put in, but are we really coming together? You know, you have Army, Navy, Air Force, I'm sorry, that's my world. You have different branches, but don't we work better when we're all communicating at the top? Hence why we have a Joint Chiefs. So I have a feeling that that's what's missing in amateur radio, that there doesn't seem this council of wisdom that has been established. Glad to help push it in that direction. Again, I'm a Mr. Nobody. I'm a tiny little grain of salt. But I think that if we can get our leaderships, plural, to come together and to say, you know what, let's make it into a collective effort. That's how you fight a public health crisis. That's how you fight a war. That's how you fight anything. You come together. And I don't feel, and I'd love to hear if you think I'm wrong or if you agree, that we need that collective energy pointing us in a given direction, as opposed to 1,000 people complaining. Anytime we have an amateur radio meeting, what do we hear? Complaints. Not enough youth. Not this, not that. Fine. What is the solution? The solution is a collective effort, I believe.
You know, Jim, that sounds like an excellent topic as a follow-up to this presentation for the next QSO Today Expo or some other forum. Some of these issues have been, as Sterling points out, have been issues since forever. And if we take a look at QSTs from, the 20s or whatever, you'll see very similar discussions and complaints and everything else. The real issue is indeed going to be, where is that leadership? In my mind, it's got to be ARRL. I don't know if any of those folks are on this Q&A session or what, but I think, Jim, it could be a very interesting topic to explore. Maybe it's a panel discussion. And I'm sure Eric, the host of the host of QSO Today Expo, would love to have that topic as well. So, kind of interesting. Anyone else? I want to stop this thing on time at the top of the hour. It's 3:44 now. If anybody has any more questions or points to bring up, this is a great time to do it. So once again, QRZ.
Our favorite. Go for it, Bob.
Yeah, sorry, I just have I have ideas coming out. If for those who are not reading the chat, I discovered you can right-click in the chat. You can select all and then paste it into Notepad or what have you to save it if you want.
Right. Thank you for that observation, Bob. Hey, Sterling, N0SSC has a good comment and a possible other participant for you, Jim, as you're considering our suggestion here in this Q&A session for that follow-up topic. And, he suggests K4FMH would be a good participant in this sort of ham radio think tank. And I think that's a good suggestion. Thank you, Sterling.
Yeah, he's I hear him a lot on ICQ podcast about talking about various aspects of the social and his basically he's like a researcher in that realm, and he's talked about waxed eloquent about like the demographics and the future and all that stuff. So he'd be cool. And then talking about influencers, I go straight to like TikTok, Instagram, YouTubers. There's guys like Ham Radio Crash Course, Josh Nass, who really coins the idea of normalizing ham radio and making it a common use term in the household. So when you think of ham radio, you don't think of like that old weird guy down the street with all the antennas. You think, oh, it's just a thing people do, just like anything else.
Absolutely. So, thank you, Sterling, for that comment. I have a comment too. I used to work for ARRL headquarters in Ewington many years ago. Mm-hmm. And part of my function there was public information officer, along with Peter Odell, WB2D, who was KB1N at the time. We put together a publication that was specifically geared for people in office on Washington, D.C. These are all the politicians, the senators, and the House of Reps, and all of the official, legislative branches of our government. And it was filled with public service and ham radio and education stories. And that was the whole theme, to educate the lawmakers, the legislatures, right, who are basically setting up these things. And that publication went away. So maybe it's time to bring that back. And maybe it's not necessarily a paper thing. Maybe it's an online thing. But yeah, a lot of times, the folks in those offices in government aren't even aware that we exist. In fact, if not diminishing what we're doing. And certainly, the whole reason ham radio exists is because of the MCOM angle and the technical expertise we bring in. Hey, we have a comment here from Keith at WA0TJT. What database are you using to store responses, Jim?
It's on a secured MySQL, but with a hell of a front end on it. And plus all of the private stuff is on a separate server. So you'd have to know two servers and hack two separate servers. So I've taken it rather seriously. And I'm not the one who did it. It's my people who really know what they're doing because we work for the government as well. So
very good.
Is it perfect? Hey, nowadays the Pentagon gets hacked, but I've taken it, and if you look at the site, you'll see the privacy policies. We've gone out of our way to satisfy as many as we could. We've tried to play it by the book. It's hopefully not a Mickey Mouse project, but am I perfect? No, but we've really taken it seriously.
Right, and W0TJT wants to make sure we understand there's no intent for hacking. That was not the intent of his question. So just to make that clear.
I'm watching.
Thanks, Keith, for that. Thanks, Keith, for that clarification. I think this is being recorded, so just for all you know. All right, a little bit less than 10 minutes. Once again, QRZ. Any other questions?
Okay.
Jim, thank you very much. Very educational. I think this is going to be an amazing source of demographics, and I think this thing could go into many huge different directions that you may not even have anticipated. So, if you want, we could probably have a discussion offline or something. But I'm sure you might be already thinking about those issues.
Oh no, I know the power of teamwork. I know the power of a squadron or a platoon, or better yet, a brigade, or better yet, an army.
Yeah.
No, absolutely open to collaborating and to different ideas. Let's grow the family.
Yeah, and don't forget the power of the information that's in there. All right. Anybody else with a question? Now's the time to ask it.
And if not, we'll let you go for early coffee.
Yeah, one of the things I want to let people know on this Q&A session is that I think participating as a speaker or a presenter in all three of these QSO Expos, I think this event has improved significantly over the last time, and I think we all need to let Eric and his staff know that we've recognized and realized the tremendous effort they had to do to fix those issues we had last time. That's number one. Number two, I think you can increase your participation in all of these things by visiting the various lounges that are out there. Kind of interesting to, randomly or maybe specifically go to your areas of interest and meet other ham radio folks, not on the air, but on this 21st century version of not being on the air with RF, but through the internet. I think I met so many interesting people and reconnected with hams I've known about for decades, and finally for the first time meeting them, right? Not necessarily in person, but pretty close to that with video chat. So for me, it's always been an incredible experience with all three of these QSO Today Expos. And don't also forget the QSO Today podcasts, right? There are some very fascinating hams that have been interviewed on that show. And that's really huge, because let's face it, as we all are aware, it'll be so sad that when somebody goes silent key and nobody recognizes the contributions of some of these guys and we all have that same common thread of, being hams. So with a call sign. About 9 minutes to go. So here we go. Please feel free to ask your questions before the time's up.
But no pressure if you're out of questions.
So I got a question for this audience, since we're talking about demographics. How many folks here are newly licensed? Newly licensed defined as less than 1 year or less. Nobody? Unless you're shy.
That's on the census, by the way. That's one of the questions on the census, is the
Jim, thank you.
The time people have been licensed.
1 year, 2 months from Brenda. Very awesome. KD2 UCQ. 1 year, 2 months. Very good, Brenda. So Brenda, feel free to unmute your mic and tell your story. The ham radio is such a, maybe even a secret hobby not a lot of people know about. And for women, and this is, I'm not a chauvinist or anything, but just an observation. Brenda, if you're not shy, feel free to unmute and let us know. I'd love to hear your story. I think you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Okay. Anyone else? Bob, go ahead.
Jim, how did you and your team arrive at the questions that you came up on? Can you give some background to that?
Absolutely. It was a round robin. So I'm a member of multiple clubs in the DC area. I'm in the DC area. And so I went to all the clubs I was a member of, notably Vienna Wireless, that was very helpful. And let me backtrack. First, it was me. Then myself and my buddy Alan, W4DOI, and about 4 of us. So we got together. From the 4, we went to about a group of about 8. From a group of 8, we went to what I called the group of 15. There were 15 of us. So that was the 3rd round. And then we opened it up to about 200 people. And out of the 200 people, we got about 125 edited Word documents back. So that was pretty cool. And at that point, I think I almost hit 350 questions. I was like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. So we finally managed to bring it back down to whatever it is that I have in there, 250 odd questions. And I think what we tried to do is the thinking was, are we missing anything in the amateur radio spectrum? Did we talk about EME? Did we talk about, do you like the, are you a SAT operator? We wanted to know about everything. I mean, as much as possible, we wanted to cover the various fields. And I think we kind of did. Now, what I'd like to do going forward, I think, is to do a couple of more specialized questionnaires. If I can get the numbers up on Ham Census and the people take it seriously, that the manufacturers listen, that the ARRL listens, because those messages, by the way, are the key component, I believe. I would be remiss if I didn't call out the manufacturers, the authorities that are on this call or any other call, not to go there and read, because there are some really good comments that I didn't get to that are very incisive. But so my goal would be, once we get to the numbers, to be able to do some more specialized census gathering with specific groups. For example, let's say that we wanted to do something on youth. Why not? Let's do something on youth specifically. And I'll tailor a census that goes just to them. But if we've got a base of 5, 10, 15,000 respondents, we can cull the youth from within there and then bring more in. So basically very interested in going down the specialized route as well. To answer your question, Bob, how did we come up with the questions? I think as exhaustively as possible, with as many people saying, that's a stupid question. And I got a lot of those. But we finally got it right. I think, I hope, I don't know. We tried.
And that concludes our 2 excerpts from Shaping the Future of Ham Radio, a virtual presentation voiced by Jim Alyanak, K3MRI, for the August 2021 QSO Today Virtual Ham Expo. You'll find the survey on hamcensus.com. Rain Hamcast number 56 will post on December 11th, 2021. The Rain Hamcast is copyright 1985-2021 Rain. All rights are reserved. Rain programming is made available under a Creative Commons license. The downloading, sharing, posting, and transmission of this bi-weekly podcast via amateur radio in its entirety is encouraged. Your feedback and support for the Rain Hamcast are welcome on therainreport.com. YouTube technical assistance, Tom Shimizu, N9JDI. I'm Will Rogers, K5WLR. From all of us at the Radio Amateur Information Network, Very 73, and keep on hamming.